Okay, so the first question is, if you want to balance Deen and Dunya but encourage to seek knowledge, what do Muslims do in terms of taking out student loans to facilitate this? This is like a question which requires like a number of angles that we need to discuss it from. Number one, from in terms of a student loan and what it necessitates and what it requires, a student loan is something which if you take out, you pay back at the rate of inflation. And so that means that there is some interest involved in that. So as a pure contract, there is interest involved. And as we know as Muslims, interest is something which we are not allowed to do. It's not something which you are allowed to partake in. So therefore, if someone can avoid taking out a loan that they have to pay back in this way, or there is another way of dealing with this issue, like you get a loan from a family member that you don't have to pay back with interest, you just pay it back exactly as there is, or something like this, and that is obviously better and more preferred, and that is what you should do as a first point of call. The second point is, for the vast majority of us, to be quite frank, we can't do that. And so we're not in that position, nor do we know people that are millionaires that can afford to give us such loans for a long extended period of time. Therefore then the second point is, what do you do? I would advise, firstly as a point of call, that you go back to a scholar that you trust and that you seek knowledge from, and that you trust their piety and their knowledge, and you take whatever ruling they give you in this regard. And so whoever that may be, whoever you feel comfortable with, you go back to that person and you seek their knowledge, and you understand the issue from them, and you take whatever they give you. In terms of my own personal opinion on this, I would say that in light of especially the topic that we're discussing and the lecture that I gave, that it then falls into an issue of necessity. Where if we all as Muslims stop going to university and no one learns and no one becomes a graduate, and therefore a whole element, a whole plethora of things go out of your reach and out of your grasp because of that lack of education, then that would be more detrimental to the Muslims as a community and as an ummah than if you were to go and take that type of loan. So therefore, again, I advise that you go to someone that you feel more comfortable with, and you take that verdict from them. But in terms of my own view, again, I would say that you, firstly, if you can avoid it, then avoid it. Secondly, if you cannot avoid it, then take that loan. But there is a proviso in this, and that is that you do it for something that is worthwhile. Right? You do it for something that is beneficial, that will actually help you. So often, like before, what we had was, maybe I'm speaking to a younger audience that doesn't understand this, but if you were to go back 5-10 years ago, people used to go to university just for the sake of university. And they will study stuff like art, right? Apologies to any art students. But and it's not because they want to do art, want to become an art teacher or an artist. They would just do art because that's just something they want to kill the time in. So they would just choose courses just for the sake of choosing a course, with no plan in mind, no goal in life, nothing. It was just for the sake of doing a course because everyone just goes to university. Or they just go and do any course and then after a year change it to something else, after 2 years change it to something else, and then 6-7 years down they're still in university the first year because they've just changed so many courses. So the proviso then is, now because you're taking a loan, and it is a riba loan, it is a loan that requires interest, you must put in that time and effort to decide what you're going to do and to be serious in that, and then you choose that course based on that, so that it's not just you're accumulating this loan just for the sake of accumulating a loan. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. What practical tip would you give to a person who slowly has started becoming attracted to the dunya and being distant from Deen, as in someone's heart becoming distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Again, this is something which we touched upon in terms of requiring a balance. There is a balance in everything that we do. And there will be times when you become engrossed in your dunya. So for example, when you're studying and you're spending so much time studying, that time obviously takes away and detracts from other things that you could be doing. If you're working and you're in a job that has a lot of time pressures and you have a lot of pressure on you, that is time that you will take away from dedicating to other things. So therefore that balance is extremely important. And the way that you achieve that balance is, number one, as we said, by seeking that knowledge. Number two, it doesn't have to be by doing the greatest or the biggest acts of worship. But as the Prophet ﷺ said, the most beloved acts to Allah are those that are consistent, even if they are small, and even if they are few. And that's how you continue to strengthen your iman. So for example, a person who doesn't have much time, but when they want to worship Allah, they want to do a great amount of worship. So for example, they want to perform Umrah, go to Saudi Arabia and perform pilgrimage. Or they want to recite the whole Quran in a day kind of thing. But now they have to wait for like months until they can get a week's holiday to go to Saudi Arabia. Or they have to wait months until they can take a day off that they can dedicate just to reciting the Quran. That is less beloved to Allah, as opposed to a person who understands the time constraints that they have. So what they do instead is they perform actions which are consistent, even if they're small. So for example, the Quran, they just recite 10 minutes a day. Just 10 minutes every day, but it's every day they do it. And it's only 10 minutes. They'll maybe pray some extra prayers, and it's only going to take 5 minutes, but they'll do it every day. They'll fast maybe once a month, but it's every month that they'll fast, that one day. And so on and so forth. Or they give charity, but it's not like, they have to have like £10,000 to give to Islamic Relief or any other organization. They will give £5 a week, if that's all they can do. But it's consistent. That is more beloved to Allah. Why? Because even though that action is very small in and of itself, it continues to strengthen your iman, continues to reconnect you to Allah, and in its long term, because of the way that you are doing it, it will have a greater benefit even in terms of reward, and Allah knows best.
Sheikh, mine is really about comparing the two aspects of seeking knowledge. When we really look at how world is really being globalized now in relation to media, Facebook, electronics, and other related media, it has really become increasingly important for people to be getting the knowledge maybe at home, everywhere. But how can you really encourage people, despite such electronic revolution, to really still go to the ulamas to really seek knowledge in relation to opening the books, which I feel, I don't know how we can really talk to people about that.
What I would say in terms of this is use it to your advantage, use it to your benefit. So this technological revolution that we're having with social networking and YouTube and all of these things, use it to your advantage. And that's why now, for example, like most speakers, most scholars, they have a Facebook page, they have a Twitter account, they have a YouTube channel, and so on. So use it to your advantage. And so before, like if you go back like 100 years ago, maybe even 20, 30 years ago, the only way that you could seek knowledge was if you gave up everything, you left your family behind, you traveled thousands of miles to Egypt or some other country, and then you studied knowledge and you stayed there for years on end, and then you came back. That was how people used to seek knowledge historically as well. Hundreds of years ago, that's what you did. You traveled the world and you went to those scholars, and that's how you sought knowledge. Now though, because of all of this technological revolution that we've had, all of these things, you can do it from the comfort of your home. And so, like there's one element that yes, there are problems that are associated with this as well, but you can use it as to your benefit as well. Because these things are just mediums. So the way that you use it is entirely upon you. So if you use, for example, YouTube to listen to all the lectures, and there are thousands of lectures on there, you can get thousands of articles, thousands of books, everything is available online. And you can access it all now from the comfort of your home. You don't even have to leave. You don't even have to go anywhere. And so I would say use it to your benefit. In fact, if anything, now it's even more of a reason to seek knowledge and to learn, and less of an excuse to say that you couldn't learn or you didn't have the opportunity to learn. Because everything is so easy now and it's just at your fingertips. What direction should I be pointing the non-Muslim to gain knowledge in Islam without the need of talking about the hellfire? My advice would be that the best source of knowledge is the Quran. And so that's basically what you should be pointing any person that's interested in Islam towards. And so you give them a translation of the Quran, get them to read as much of the Quran as they can, and if they find it difficult, for example, help them to explain it, to understand it. And if, for example, it's too big for them, then choose for them certain passages and chapters that you think will benefit from them, maybe the smaller chapters towards the end of the Quran and so on. So I would give them some direction, but ultimately I would take them to the Quran.